Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Cody Proctor. This is the KREM 2 News Week in Review, where each weekend we bring you headlines from the past week in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days.
Well, family and friends of Carter Cochran tell me that he played on the football team at Lewis and Clark High School and was on the track and field team. They say he was tender-hearted with his whole life ahead of him.
Carter's grandmother, Kim Carroll, spoke to me over the phone today. She says Carter was full of life, jokes, and had a large group of friends. She told me 40 to 50 of Carter's friends visited her at her home yesterday, where they shared stories and memories of Carter. Today, his jersey was found sitting on his seat in school. We received this photo from a close friend. Carter's grandmother added just 2 years ago, his mom died of leukemia. Since her passing, he had been living with his grandmother, though she noted despite losing his mom, he was happy and full of life, and that this situation was out of the blue for his character. She says he had hopes to be a firefighter after he graduated this spring. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office say Carter stood in front of a car traveling on 16th Avenue in Spokane Valley Wednesday night. Deputies say the teen was in crisis and making statements about self-harm. Investigators say he got into the car with 3 people inside. He was later forced out by the driver. A confrontation followed outside the vehicle. Officials say the incident escalated, and shortly after, the armed driver then shot Carter. Spokane Public Schools also told us today they do have counselors and support staff available for students this week. They also stated, "We encourage families to check in with their children and be mindful of any signs of emotional distress. Creating space for open conversation and offering reassurance can make a significant difference as students process."
Now, Kim Carroll, Carter's grandmother, says she is arranging a service to honor Carter's life. She says she expects the service to be sometime before the end of the month. I'm reporting in Spokane Valley. Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
A chaotic night with inert smoke and pepper balls used by police, more than 30 arrests made, and the mayor declaring a state of emergency and a curfew. The protest outside the Spokane ICE facility on June 11, 2025 happened in response to the detainment of 2 Venezuelan men. 3 people are still facing federal charges from that day, though they tried to have them dropped Tuesday in federal court.
We believe in showing up for each other and that we will always show up for each other.
Liz Moore with the Peace and Justice Action League of Spokane spoke out after sitting in on that hearing. Jack Archer, one of the 3 people still facing charges, filed a petition to dismiss the case on the grounds that it violates the First Amendment. It was signed by the other 2 people facing charges, Justice for All and Bajan Mavawala. A judge denied that, as well as denied a motion to dismiss regarding the lack of a lawfully appointed United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Washington, and denied a motion to dismiss or strike one of the defendants' alleged conspiracies.
The idea that that was a conspiracy when it was the most spontaneous protest Spokane has ever seen.
Moore and several other community members gathered outside the Waters Meat Foundation across the street from the courthouse to voice their opposition to the judge's decisions and to show support for the 3 as they prepare for trial. She urges other people in Spokane to show support and not let the federal charges take attention away from what protesters were standing against.
To make sure that immigrant neighbors and loved ones in our community are not isolated and targeted, and that they experience support, just like we want Jack Justice and Bajan to experience support.
The trial is set to start on May 18th. Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Well, after nearly 20 years of an agreement between Spokane County and the Washington State Department of Transportation, WashDOT tells us that the county has told them their intent to end that lease agreement surrounding this dog park. Now, several dog owners have told me their love for this park and their hopes to keep the space open. So they're speaking up because they say it's not just for the dogs, but it's for the community.
On Tuesday, the Spokane County Commissioners voted to continue operating the Laughing Dog Park just near the state line.
Aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Before the decision, questions were swirling among dog owners in Spokane County and Kootenai County. who travel from both sides of the state to use the dog park.
I don't know what we're going to do if they close it. I mean, we can't run him the way he needs to, which is going on walks, and this really helps him just be a healthier and happier dog.
Washington State Department of Transportation reported the agreement with Spokane County was set to expire a week from today, April 21st. Under that deal, the county leases the land while maintaining the site, with no funding provided by WashDOT. Dog owners tell me it's the largest dog park in the area and a community favorite.
Daisy loves it here. Her friends are all here. These animals make friends. They bond. They really care about each other.
Even on Tuesday afternoon, it's busy, and people say weekends are packed.
It's good for him. It socializes him. It teaches him to behave well with other dogs.
Now, Director of Spokane Parks, Doug Chase, tells me the dog park will stay and the termination notice is officially rescinded.
And we look forward to continuing our efforts with the Department of Transportation to renegotiate and examine other long-term opportunities that might allow us to accommodate the dog park and yet reduce costs.
Meaning the dogs get to stay, tails wagging, and they're humans just as happy.
I'm reporting in Spokane County, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It has been a busy week all across the inland Northwest, so let's catch you up on some of the news you might have missed.
City leaders say as more people move to Spokane over the course of the next few decades, an updated plan for growth is needed now more than ever.
Alternative 1, our status quo, does not meet the affordability requirements of our lowest income brackets. This means we have to look at Alternative 2 and 3 in order to meet state affordability requirements.
Plan Spokane 2046 is a new roadmap for how the city will grow, a long-term strategy that guides developments and housing across the city.
So Alternative 1, stay the course. That is our status quo, our current land uses, our current policies. It is a requirement of the EIS process that we have this Alternative 1, really to compare and contrast the other growth alternatives. Alternative 2, distributed and balanced. This one focused on interconnecting the higher intensities throughout the city, focusing on transit and major roadways. And then Alternative 3, center city and regional hubs. This focused on downtown in the larger center city area, as well as employment hubs near Hilliard and out by the airport.
Leaders say these alternative maps are just generalized drafts of potential avenues the city can take to accommodate the estimated 20,000 people expected to make Spokane home between now and 2046. The planning director for the city of Spokane says these plans have been in the works for the last 2 years. This includes collaborating with the Plan Commission on the maps as well as getting community input. Today, over a dozen people showed up for public comment to speak out about what they hope the commission keeps in mind moving forward, more specifically protecting the pocket habitats around the city and not just the major parks on the map.
I go to a city park every single day with the intent of looking at what's actually living there and what they're doing. And there are lots and lots more people just like me who expect you as the Plan Commission to do a good job of planning this so we don't wreck what's already there.
The Plan Commission voted in favor of sending the updated comprehensive plan to the City Council. The planning director says this is just a checkpoint in the process, and as this plan gets closer to adoption, things will get more specific as far as locations and potentially impacted areas.
The plan now moves to the City Council to vote on whether or not they're going to adopt the preferred alternative. That decision is expected to be made in May. In Spokane, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
Yeah, this online survey is in connection with Kootenai County's comprehensive plan, and ultimately that's a 20-year long-range plan that'll help them with development, growth, and just overall population boost here in the area. So this is what that survey looks like. It takes about 20 minutes to fill out. The county says a component of this long-range plan is developing its first parks, waterways, recreation, and open space and trails plan. It's an effort to set priorities for trails, recreation facilities, natural areas, and community parks. The online survey can be found at www.keepingkootenai.com. And as the county updates its plan, the process is expected to last through April of 2027. You can see the signs of growth all around you as you enter into North Idaho, from the construction on I-90 to high-rise buildings going up here in downtown Coeur d'Alene. So this online survey is the first of several engagement opportunities that Kootenai County says they will implement as they plan for the future. For now, though, reporting here in Coeur d'Alene, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
Thanks for joining KREM 2 News this weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Right now, we're taking a look back at some of the news stories from the past week in this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review.
While President Donald Trump and Pope Leo are currently at odds, a local expert says the Pope's approach isn't much different than popes of the past. According to Gonzaga professor of religious studies Kevin Brown, popes have a long history of speaking out against global armed conflict, and says Pope Leo has been direct in his references to the Trump administration.
He was very explicit in drawing on the language that has been used by the Trump administration to try and pitch this war to the public, in saying that those are not justifications for war. And so it is very direct at this moment.
Pope Leo is the first American pope. As Brown says, it may make United States governments more sensitive to the Pope's critiques.
They're not able to say, well, he doesn't understand our context, which has been said by American politicians before when a church leader, particularly one who is not from the United States, has critiqued U.S. either domestic or foreign policy.
Brown also says the job of the Pope is not to directly influence government officials or policy decisions, but to speak on behalf of a church and faith that has over 1.4 billion people worldwide.
He is not seeking to be president of the United States by having a direct influence on the president. But what he is trying to do is sort of prick the consciences of those who are making decisions and saying you cannot justify this by an appeal to faith.
Reporting at Gonzaga University, Caitlin Galloway, KREM 2 News.
An ordinance announced by the city of Spokane aimed at lowering heat-related deaths is drawing strong reactions from people for and against it.
And they would need to provide mechanical cooling in order to be able to keep the space at a safe temperature.
This single bill will kill more units of affordable housing than any other piece of legislation I've seen in the state in 20 years.
The city says they'll be considering what's called a renter's right to cooling. The ordinance would require landlords to maintain bedrooms at a safe temperature, which the rule stipulates is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That number was determined through a city partnership with the Gonzaga Climate Institute.
We've been working hard to try and figure out how to help Spokane to be better prepared for the next time we have a heat dome.
Dr. Brian Heading's the director of the institute. He says the deadly 2021 Northwest heat dome in Spokane is what prompted the partnership to try and lower the risk of people dying from heat-related deaths in the future. He adds landlords may not be required to pay for AC units to make that happen.
It simply says that they need to be able to keep bedrooms at a safe temperature. And that can be achieved through trees and insulation and good windows, all sorts of what are called passive cooling measures.
But Sean Flynn with the Rental Housing Association of Washington argues that's not the case.
So your windows and insulation aren't going to help you in an extreme heat event when it's 110 degrees outside.
He says this will only make landlords face tough, costly decisions when it comes to adapting to the new law, eventually shrinking options for affordable housing in the future.
It defines cooling units, and it says you've got to bring every bedroom to below 80 degrees or it's uninhabitable. If they do build new units, they will be vastly more expensive. and the existing units will slowly come off the market.
Right now, council is expected to introduce the ordinance at their next meeting and vote on it sometime in May. If passed, landlords would need to adapt to the rule by 2031. Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
To inspect my drivers.
Kurt Nucitelli is one of the plaintiffs arguing Washington's millionaires tax hits big earners and the little guy.
It doesn't just affect your Amazons and your Elon Musks, it affects small businesses across Washington state. I have to compete there, but at the same time, for me to compete, that doesn't mean I could just charge whatever I want.
Nucitelli converted this warehouse into Spirit Transport Systems, a 14-employee trucking company based in the Kent Valley, moving goods through the ports of Seattle and Tacoma.
Anything and everything you buy in the store comes by truck, and that's what we do.
He says he can't just raise prices to keep up. And because his business profits are taxed as personal income, higher taxes hit his business directly, forcing trade-offs like less money to reinvest, less flexibility to hire or raise wages, and less room to handle an unexpected bump in the road.
When the sewer line broke out here and the bill was $100,000 and the county and the city said it's our responsibility, those are the kind of things we have to plan for, those rainy days.
The lawsuit argues the tax is unconstitutional because it treats income as property, which must be taxed at the same rate for everyone and cannot exceed 1%. The new tax created a controversial legislative session in Olympia ending last month. The bill sponsors, including Senator Jamie Peterson of Seattle, prevailed with a 9.9% tax set to start in 2 years.
It's trying to shift the burden so that we can pay for great public schools, so that we can pay for colleges and universities, pay for health care for people who need health care assistance from the state.
Nucitelli says when he can't absorb costs or fully pass them along, the pressure builds across his business. Over time, it can show up in higher prices for customers. In Kent, Alex McClune, King 5 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you that you can get the latest newscast and weather forecast anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It's free to watch and download for Roku, Amazon Fire, and on Apple TV. Now here's one more story before we go.
Just when I think they've gone the lowest they can go, they grab a backhoe and go again.
For decades, Michael and Angie Devitt have proudly called Idaho their home.
It's like one of the greatest places in the world to raise a family and to entertain that family with outdoors and with arts.
They've raised their 2 daughters, Isabel and Eve, in the Gem State, but now they say they're looking to get out.
Idaho is making it really clear as to who they want here, who they value here, and who they would rather see just go away.
Their youngest daughter, Eve, is transgender. The Devitts say they've watched lawmakers for 5 back-to-back legislative sessions, quote, target her community through various bills and laws.
I walk to work every day looking at the Capitol, and I used to think, it's the people's house. Now I look at it and I say, it's where hateful people go to do hateful things to people they hate.
They say House Bill 752, officially signed by Governor Brad Little, was their last straw.
This bill is all about denying people's humanity and their ability to exist, really. And that's our red line. And that's not negotiable.
The bathroom bill makes it a crime for transgender Idahoans to knowingly use bathrooms or changing rooms that don't align with their sex at birth in government buildings or other places of public accommodation, beginning July 1st. Supporters of the law say it's about advocating for women and children's privacy and safety, but the Devitts argue it takes away their daughters' human rights and points to a 2025 UCLA study about other states with laws like this, saying 58% of the transgender respondents say they avoid going out due to lack of access to a safe bathroom.
And that is inhumane.
Eve, who is a college student in New York, says she's left with one question.
She said, how do I come home?
Michael says it feels like transgender Idahoans or families with transgender kids are in an abusive relationship with the state.
The relationship is broken, irreparable, and that's where we are.
So they're making plans to move out of state.
When the state says you don't deserve the same rights as everyone else, because there are no other options, there just aren't.
Michael will close his longtime physical therapy clinic this September, and Angie, who is a family physician, will eventually say goodbye to her patients in a state that currently ranks among the lowest in the nation for doctors per capita.
It kills me, it breaks my heart. This was not the plan.
To not be able to have our child feel safe coming home is not a place that we want to live.
Thank you for spending part of your weekend with us on the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here on KREM 2 for more news and weather updates. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.